What's going on, y'all? What up, what up, what up? Kyle Augustin here. I'm going to be recording from the airport. I'm on my way to Atlanta to film a feature film. And I still wanted to talk about these games. Wanted to try to complete these videos, hopefully before I get to the hotel. Because by the time I get there, I'm going to be working on dialogue and whatnot. So I figured I might be able to get this done on the plane. But a few games I really wanted to talk about from week 14. Really crazy week. Very crazy week of football. I want to start off talking about Tennessee Volunteers and the Vanderbilt Commodores. Tennessee wins this game 36-23. And I think what we saw from Tennessee was important because I think it's important to be able to see a team start out slow and not just win the game because you're scratching and clawing, but figure out how to overcome such a slow start, such caught me off guard type of start, and then take off from there. And Tennessee did just that. They fell behind 14-0, just based on how Vanderbilt started out the game. They started out the game with returning a kickoff return for a touchdown, and then Tennessee fumbled the ball on their second play. And, it's pretty trippy that so many teams are starting out their offensive possessions like this. I'm going to do my best to be quick. Flight's taking off in about 15 minutes. I felt like with Tennessee, they were really finding their stride here, not just because they fell behind, but because Nico Iamaleava was able to complete throws down the field. Now, he's still not actually completing the deep ball per se, but I'm starting to see him connect on the post route. I think that is one of his favorite routes. It seems to me in particular, one of the approaches for a lot of these teams nowadays is to try to turn the game into a track and field meet, to try to turn the game into a 7-on-7. Tennessee, one of their advantages is the fact that they don't need to just mess with the wide receivers though. They can also run between the tackles with Dylan Sampson, and be very successful at that. He had 25 carries for 178 yards, averaging 7 yards a touch. No touchdowns, but you don't need anything from him when you get 4 from Nico Iamaleava. So to see Nico start getting some offensive production is a sign of growth. It's very important to see moving into this stage where we're going right now, heading into the playoffs. I think this was an important win for Tennessee. Not a lot of people give Vanderbilt any credit whatsoever because they're Vanderbilt and because of their past, but they do play teams very tough. Tennessee played them very well on defense. Vanderbilt found a way to keep it close. Like I said, they play teams very tough. You saw a lot of teams losing towards the last game of the season. A lot of teams, especially when it came to rivalry week, teams that had no business losing were losing. So it's important to see Tennessee not show up and play 4 quarters of bad football. They might have started off slow, first quarter or whatnot, but they absolutely started playing very well, very consistently, and completing quite a few passes. Nico connected with Thornton Jr. just 3 times, but for 118 yards and 2 tutties. I mean, when you're getting that kind of production out of your quarterback, your wide receiver, and your running back, there's going to be quite a flow on the offensive side of the ball. I do still think this Tennessee team is very dangerous. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do when they get to the playoffs because they don't have to go to any SEC title game. They're in the playoffs. They're done. Their regular season is done now. Next week they get to rest, recover, let guys heal up, and then they're going to be heading into the playoffs very soon. So really looking forward to what they do. They'll probably get a home playoff game as well. So very interested to see where Tennessee matches up and with whom. They were ranked 8th. They won their game, so they're probably a slide up to, say, 7th or 6th based on Ohio State losing. And who knows? I mean, Tennessee might end up playing, if they're the 7th seed, say, I think that's the 6th seed they might end up playing. Not quite sure off the top of my head right now. But, liable to see something like a Tennessee against Indiana. Tennessee, last week they slated Tennessee versus Georgia. But I think that's going to get a bit more mixed up now because of some of the losses that took place. So, great win by Tennessee. Very important win. Like I said, nobody wants to start off slow, but being able to be the kind of team that can start off slow, overcome how you started, really put your stamp on the game, and win convincingly Very important to get that kind of win so you can build that kind of confidence for your team and for your quarterback. Nico needs to see himself connect on some of these passes, not just the layups, but the deep passes, because if you can't connect on those, at the end of the day, teams can just play you one kind of way, force you to run the ball, and then stop the run. So, big win for Tennessee. Moving on. All right, let's talk about South Carolina, Clemson. Big win for South Carolina. Very big win. Big win for their program. Big win for the college football playoff in general, just to, I think, show and establish what kind of flexibility the playoff is going to have moving forward. I thought Lenore Sellers, I've been saying this since the beginning, but I thought Lenore Sellers was very special. His ability to break tackles, if I'm not mistaken, I think he broke like record 17 tackles in this game. His ability to break tackles, but he's also very, very consistent in the passing game as well. His ability to break tackles, make you miss, and make a play down the field when that was not the design play call. I mean, he's very dangerous. I liken him to Cam Newton 2.0. It's going to be faster, more in shape, not as big, but very big, deceptively big. 6'3", 242 pounds. I think South Carolina is one of the more explosive teams. My question was at the start of this game, who was going to be the most disciplined? Because South Carolina tends to find ways to lose games. They tend to find ways to lose games by way of bad penalties. Sometimes they can just be very undisciplined, this team. Had a couple good drives early in the game. In the middle of a very good drive, Sellers had a fumble, gave Clemson the ball back. I found it interesting that both quarterbacks scored 2 touchdowns in this game on the ground. Cade Klubnik, 24-36 in the air, 280 yards, but he did have an interception. And you got Lenore Sellers, 13 of 21, 164 yards, a little less in the passing game, but very productive. 16 carries, 166 yards on the ground. I mean, both those guys played a pretty good ball game. Clemson still has somewhat of a pedestrian offense. Really interesting to see them come into this game, lose the game, but then have the opportunity to play for the ACC title because of Miami and Syracuse. Going to talk about that one just in a second here. That's part of the craziness of college football, part of the craziness of this past week, part of the craziness of this entire season. Because if you're winning your conference games, if you focus on your conference games, you're going to have an opportunity at the end of the season, regardless of whatever you did outside of conference play, which is one of the reasons I had such issues with what Lane Kiffin was talking about when he brought up, not really sure if we want to play in the SEC title game. Well, you're not going to be playing in that game, but ultimately, there should always be precedence. There should always be a priority on playing in your conference title game. You're representing the conference. You're going to be the head of the conference, point blank period, whether you win the title or not. The title is later on in the season, and far too many teams have been looking ahead. And I think it's why a lot of teams have been coming up short, because they're constantly looking ahead and not focused on their opponent at hand. Didn't happen in this game. I do feel like Clemson was focused on their opponent. I just think it was a hard-fought battle. And I think South Carolina won it at the end because they play everybody tough. I think this team is better than what they really are. I just think they're young and they make a lot of stupid mistakes, tend to hurt themselves. But, they got the W in this one. South Carolina's not going to an SEC title game, but I believe they're going to a playoff, and I think they're going to give a lot of people some problems. If they mess around, get a good matchup, win their first game, I mean, you're looking at a very dangerous team that I don't think anybody really wants any problems with, okay? Let's move on. Let's talk about Michigan, Ohio State. Now, nobody expected Ohio State to lose this game. Nobody. Vegas had them up by 3 touchdowns. The only team that expected Ohio State to lose this game was Michigan. They played like it, and I'm 1,000% sure that they prepared like it. It shows on tape. These numbers so pedestrian-like. Listen to this. Will Howard, 19 of 33, 175 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Tate, 6 catches, 58 yards, no touchdowns. Egbuka, 4 catches, 51 yards, no touchdowns. Jeremiah Smith, 5 catches, 35 yards, 1 touchdown. They kept everything in front of them. Michigan kept everything in front of them. The scheme that they played on defense was special, okay? They maneuvered it. It was a flexible defense, so if they were in the cover 2, they were able to stretch the cover 2 on occasion, depending on how Ohio State ran their routes. I really have a problem with Ohio State kind of forcing these Will Howard runs. Will Howard here had 4 carries, 10 yards, got knocked out of the game one time. 4 carries doesn't sound like a lot, but, look at Quinshon Judkins, 12 carries, 46 yards. Give him those 4 carries. Thank you. Give him those 4 carries. I think you're wasting carries, opportunities, having Will Howard run the ball. They had probably about 2 designed runs for Will Howard. I just think it's a bad decision, bad choice. For what? He's your quarterback. He's the person that you're staking this season on. You got rid of Kyle McCord, which I didn't agree with, and you got Will Howard. You need to try to help him elevate his game. Didn't see them do that. Didn't see that from the coaches, not from Ryan Day or Chip Kelly. I didn't see Ohio State make any changes. They came into this game playing as if they were in a walkthrough kind of energy. It's like they expected to win this game. Personally, my philosophy, my idea, my theory, I believe that Ohio State didn't really prepare for this game the way they should have. I think Ohio State more so was focused on Thanksgiving and was more so focused on letting everybody try to have the kind of Thanksgiving experience that they deserve. Not necessarily keeping in mind that these guys are in season and it's time right now. It shows. It's all over the tape, okay? None of the throws were, a lot of the sideline throws that Will Howard had when he was rolling out or just trying to make a pinpoint accurate throw, none of them were sharp. None of them were on point. He was missing by 2 to 3 yards, throws that need to be on point because Michigan was all over these guys. You'll see it on the tape when I break down the footage. And this is the kind of game that Michigan wants to win. Michigan is not the kind of team that's really just going to be putting up 30-plus points. Ohio State is. So the fact that they weren't able to be consistent with their offense, to continue to try to manufacture offense, Will Howard wasn't able to keep looking down the field and making plays. Michigan was doing a lot to really disturb Will Howard. And this is this is Ohio State's biggest loss, in my opinion. The one they had to Oregon, everybody was giving them a pass on that one. And now they lose this game after Indiana actually beat this team, so it validates Indiana's claim as well. Terrible loss for Ohio State. Definitely look into when I break down the footage because I go in depth. I go in depth there, and I think it's important to do so. Ohio State had 175 passing yards to Michigan's 62. Look at the other side of the tape. Michigan had 172 rushing yards to Ohio State 77. You got to find a way to win. Ryan Day, Chip Kelly, they didn't find a way to win. They didn't find any route combinations for their wide receivers to break the defense open, to break open, get a big play. I thought that they had opportunities to do so with Egbuka and Jeremiah Smith on the same side. Use Jeremiah Smith sometimes as a decoy. He's got plenty of time to ball out and have 10-catch games, 20-catch games, plenty of time. He's a freshman. Use him as a decoy in games like this because Michigan was focusing on him, running the safety over on top of him, at times having 2 to 3 people covering him. You could have put Egbuka on the same side and had Egbuka running routes right beyond your safeties, slipping beyond them, and I just didn't see any creative offense, and you expect to see that because, they went and got Chip Kelly for that reason. But Chip Kelly or Will Howard or Ryan Day, at the end of the day, then it's going to go on Ryan Day and then on Will Howard. I don't think these guys came out there prepared. I think they were eating up the idea that they were just supposed to win because of what the numbers say, and they were going to win, and they were going to be playing Oregon, and now they're not going to be doing that. We've been seeing that example all year, and I think that's the perfect segue into my next game, University of Miami and Syracuse. Miami got out so well. It was really good to see Miami get out so well. Really felt like they were going to be focused and dominate this game. But Syracuse is a very competitive team, and this was one of their more competitive games on defense. Okay, it was an offensive battle. 503 total yards for Miami, 479 for Syracuse. These guys were just going back and forth. I knew this was going to be a shootout. Cam Ward, 25 of 36, 349 yards, 2 tutties. Kyle McCord, 26 of 36, 380 yards, 3 tutties. I thought this was going to be somewhat of a Heisman game for Cam Ward, seal Miami's fate, get them into the ACC title game, move Miami up in the rankings. None of that happened. But you can't blame Cam Ward. I don't want to blame him, and I don't think we should blame him. I don't think that's fair, to be 1,000% honest. I think this Miami team is not stopping anybody, and they've been keeping themselves in games constantly, games that they shouldn't even be in. If your offense is somewhat functional, you can beat this Miami team because these DBs do not stop anybody. It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, mind you, Syracuse has some really good receiver combinations with Pena and Gadsden. and a couple of the guys. I think Meeks was his name, the wide receiver, and then Allen at the running back position. Kyle McCord just slinging it back there, okay? I liken him to Jerry Goff. So Syracuse does bring a lot of problems, but at the end of the day, you got to nullify that with good defense up front. Your defensive linemen got to wreak havoc. That's not happening. Then your DBs got to be able to make plays. That's not happening. Miami's DBs are getting beat soundly every single time. Doesn't matter if it's a 2-minute possession, doesn't matter if it's 5-minute possessions. Teams are having fun throwing the ball on Miami. It's tough to watch. Miami really could have locked up their fate here in the ACC and moving forward. They don't do that. Hard to watch. So now Clemson gets a chance to play in the ACC title game against SMU. Nobody expected it to be this way. I went back and forth with somebody in my comments on YouTube just the other day, and they were talking about how Miami is absolutely going to win the ACC title game. Now they're not playing in it. At least they'll still get into the playoff, I believe, and hopefully they'll have an opportunity to win a couple games and get as far as possible. But Miami's going to absolutely have to buckle up on defense and find a way to make some plays and get some stops, because Cam Ward and that offense have no margin of error. He has to score on every single possession for this team to be successful, and you can't sustain that. That is absolutely ridiculous to have that kind of mindset that we have to score on every single possession. No, some possessions might not even be about scoring. Some possessions might need to really just be about keeping the ball for 9 minutes. Can we do that? Can we sustain a drive for 9 minutes? And then can we go on defense and stop them, get the ball back for our offense, and then do that again to keep them from... Sometimes it's not just about putting up points. Sometimes the game is about keep away. That's the difference between chess and checkers. And some teams aren't necessarily playing that game. Some teams aren't necessarily playing to win. They're just playing the game. And then you can see it with how sloppy they get and just how inconsistent their play is. Nobody can tell me right now that this Miami team is the same team that beat Florida. I think they gave Florida everything. That was their championship game. And since then, they've just been kind of just winging it on defense. Nothing really specific. Or people just have figured out that you can beat them deep if you beat them deep, and that is the weakness on their team. So, tough loss. I was actually proud of Cristobal for kicking that field goal, to be 1,000% honest with you, at first, because I was thinking, okay, cool, kick that field goal, you're going to get the ball back, and that'll give you a chance to win the game. But the truth is, their defense wasn't stopping anybody. So it was a bad decision. It was a bad decision, because you got to think about your defense and how they're doing and factor that into your decision as to whether or not you're going to go for it and why you're going for it. Moving on, Arizona State versus Arizona. I mean, listen, I really like this Arizona State team. They're thriving. They're getting better and better week in and week out. Cam Scatterboot is ridiculously unstoppable. Okay, Jordan Tyson, this guy is coming up out of nowhere. I mean, he's being coached by Hines Ward. Arizona State put up 643 total yards of offense, 281 on the ground, 362 passing yards. Arizona stood no chance. This game was over at the very, very beginning. Cam Scatterboot, 21 carries, 177 yards, 8.4 averaging on the ground, 3 tutties. Jordan Tyson, 8 catches, 143, 1 touchdown. They have a formula. They know who their guys are. They go to their guys. They feed their guys. Sam Levitt is very, 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 very underrated. Nobody's really paying attention to him like that. 17 to 22, 291 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, they're playing such good football here. And if you're not paying attention, then, you know, you're potentially walking into a trap game against Arizona State. I think they are one of the better, more dominant teams in the Big 12 because of the way that they play offense. They're able to win in a multitude of ways, and they have a balanced offense attack. So look out for Arizona State. Really got to get going here because my flight's going to be taking off. So I'm going to make my last couple of games here, Texas and Florida. So, Texas. So let's talk about Texas. This win with Texas, very important win, had to get the win. I'm glad that they did. I knew that they were the deeper team. I knew that they were the deeper team on their D-line, their linebackers, their DBs, their wide receivers, their running backs, and their quarterbacks. They are the deeper team. I think they're the deepest team in all of college football. They have guys in every position, and they got backup guys in every position. Case in point, Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning. Arch Manning actually gets into the game, gets Texas their first score. I can see clear as day why they want Arch Manning in the game. He's not just a fast, twitchier kind of guy who can get down the field. He can throw the ball down the field. He wants to throw the ball down the field. He's aggressive when he throws the ball down the field. He's young as hell, but he's also got that juice. He's got that energy. Quinn Ewers sometimes is giving a lot of lackadaisical energy, and I don't think it's acceptable. I don't think that school needs it. This school has not won enough for the way that he plays this game. I want to look at how he plays this game and say he's got poise, but sometimes it's more so giving me this idea of like imposter syndrome. Don't really know if we're that good. We just seem to be that good. I want to see this team, Texas, be successful. I would love to see them get into the title game. They got Georgia coming up. I would love to see them get their lunch back because what happened against Georgia was just unacceptable. I'm looking forward to what's going on in that, what happens in that game. But let's just talk about Quinn Ewers just towards the end of the game. 4 possessions in a row. Pick 6, then just an interception, then a block punt. A pick 6, then a Quinn Ewers fumble, then a block punt. Texas A&M didn't score after any of those opportunities. I thought it was ridiculous that Texas A&M decided to go for it in the red zone on 4th down. It just doesn't make any sense. Take the points, man. Take the points. You're getting stops on defense. Take the points. It's not that kind of game. You don't get to throw a haymaker in this game. You're going to have to go all 12 rounds, and to go all 12 rounds, you got to get some punches in. You don't just get punches in on defense. Defense is blocking. You got to get, unless you score on defense, that's a knockout punch. But you're going to have to just get points. And Texas A&M didn't focus on that. I thought Mike Elko made a bad decision there. But I just think that sometimes Quinn Ewers is not really playing this game and playing this game well against opponents that are dominant, finding a way to make plays against those dominant opponents. He made some throws down the field a couple times, yeah. But passing game was just kind of 17-28, 218 yards. And, you got the win, and it was a 2-score win. Very good. Very, 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 it's a good win. But they really won this game on the ground with 33 carries, 186 yards, and 5.6 average by Wisner, number 26. And, the Arch Manning touchdown. You only had 2 touchdowns, and one of them was from your backup quarterback. It's telling. Just seeing Arch after that touchdown, how he got up and screamed. Man, he's going to get this whole school behind him. They're going to believe in him 1,000% of the way because of his energy. And I think his energy is going to get the guys to rally around him and to go harder. And I think this Texas offense is going to start looking better when Arch Manning gets in the lineup because I think they're going to throw it a lot more consistently. They've got somewhat of a pedestrian passing attack right now unless they play a very bad team, which is crazy because they have receivers all over the field. Texas really got to find a way to dominate with the guys that they have. I think that's vital. I think that's important. These guys need to be dominating some of these teams that they're playing against. Granted, Texas A&M, it's a good school, good team, but that's the end of the season for Texas A&M as far as I'm concerned. Now you got your bowl game, and you did well. Let's see what you do in the portal and with recruiting because there's a lot of room for improvement here. Last game, UF-FSU. Shout out to my Gators. Florida's 4-0, 5-0 now when Lagway starts. He started off kind of slow in this game, but, excuse me, can I get the ticket? Yeah. Started off kind of slow in this game, but still got the dub. Like I've been saying about him, it's not necessarily about him being overly gaudy with the numbers. It's just he connects when he does connect, and they tend to be big plays. 14 of 22 on 133 yards, 2 tutties, 1 interception. But they also get 10 carries, 99 yards from Montrell Johnson. He averaged 10 yards a carry. He had a touchdown. 11 carries, 81 yards from Baugh. 10 carries, 51 yards from Jackson. I mean, that's 31 carries from your 3 backs for over 200 yards of production. The Gators had 133 passing yards, 235 rushing yards. I'm starting to see what kind of team this Florida Gator team is. Okay, it's starting to come to light. I look forward to seeing who they are in their bowl game and next season. Saw a lot of fire from Florida State, more than we've been seeing all season. I think that's good for them. They still end up losing this game by 3 touchdowns, 31-11. The Florida Gators, 14 tackles for loss, 8 sacks, 5 forced fumbles. 5 forced fumbles. Nobody's been talking about this defense enough. I think this Gators defense has been slept on. I wish they would have had this kind of energy, this kind of identity at the start of the season because this team is very special. Really got to get out of here now. My flight's taking off in like 15 minutes. But listen, great week of football. Looking forward to next week with the conference title games. It's going to be insane. If you guys got to this part of the video, I appreciate it. Would appreciate it even more if you decided to subscribe. Thank you. We'll chat. Till I get to Atlanta. Peace.